Greetings, adventurers. This is Lorne, your guild advisor, and welcome to my review of DanMachi Season 2, Episode 1. And that just feels like an amazing thing to say, a great thing to say, because it's been, I think, 4 years since the first season of DanMachi aired in 2015, and we're finally at this point seeing Volume 6 and Volume 7 animated, and they are some of the finest material in the light novels, excluding what would be a potentially God tier Season 3 if we do get that, and I really hope we do. But let's go back into Season 2. Now, for those of you who this might be your first video of mine that you've seen, or maybe you saw my previous video about things that you should know before heading into Season 2. That video actually exploded quite a bit. I didn't think it'd get so many views in such a short amount of time, so I'm very grateful for that. I'm also super grateful for those of you guys checking me out and subscribing to my channel, because I am now at 2K subscribers, which is really cool. Thank you so much for your support, and I just hope you guys are here to stay and share in my love for DanMachi as a franchise, because it's going to be really fun for the next 11 weeks on, because we're just in Season 2 material. But let's go ahead and get started. I am a light novel reader, as most of you probably realize by now, and I will do my best to make sure I don't spoil anything for you guys, but I will make some notes here and there on some of the stuff the anime skipped over or just didn't cover. We immediately get into that right away. At the very beginning of the episode, we get an original scene with Bell, Lily, Welf, and Mikito all in the dungeon, just fighting away monsters. And you can see that they're familiar as a dungeon group now. This scene was not in the novel, and it was also in one of the promotional videos. And I was very confused as to where that scene was going to be, because I didn't recognize it, and now I can see why. It's because it's an original one. But I do think the purpose this scene serves is to show that Mikito is becoming familiar with the party, and they're just trying to build up her character, because she'll be more important as we head down the season. And you can also tell from the opening, which I will get into at the very end of the video. But the opening, probably one of my favorite parts this week, just seeing, because it's absolutely gorgeous and amazing. But anyway, back to the very beginning of the episode. We get that original scene in the dungeon, and then we go ahead and cut into the Flaming Wasp, the tavern, and Belle, Lily, and Welf are celebrating Welf getting level 2. And like I said, the very beginning of the book is a bit different, because they skip over a scene that involves Lily and Soma Familia, but I won't go over it too much because they chose to skip it here in the anime, and they might go back to it later. But it does set up some stuff that's going to happen later on in the books. But just do note that they do skip one scene concerning Lily and Soma Familia. Remember, Soma Familia is her familia, and that is the familia where Soma makes this amazing wine that pretty much keeps all his adventurers in line, because they do everything they can to get a sip of that wine because it's so addictive. But back into the Flaming Wasp scene, here you can see Apollo Familia provoking Bell and trying to get him to basically start a faction war, a war between familias. As you'll see later down the line, they announced a war game. But here in this scene, you see the level 3 of Apollo Familia, Hyacinthus, and they do a really good job showing how powerful he is. Like, you see him mess up Bell real quick, like in a matter of seconds, and Bell just has this bruised and bloodied face immediately. And then we see Bet from Loki Familia actually shut that down immediately. Like, you normally see Bet as this jerk, this guy that is like making fun of Bell and always in his way. But here you do see Bet being a bit of a cool guy and also trying to be intimidating. But here he does intimidate Hyacinthus and Apollo Familia, and then they leave, because they're not going to mess with Bet right now, because this isn't really spoilers, but at this point in the story, Bet is now level 6, and they're not going to mess. Apollo Familia is not going to mess with a level 6 Bet from Loki Familia, one of the two top familias in Arario. And one thing I did forget to mention earlier was before Belle, Welf, and Lily celebrate in the Flaming Wasp, Bell actually goes to the hostess of fertility, the pub where Seer and Ryu work at, and he does have a conversation with Seer and with Ryu, and basically Seer is teasing Bell about him getting closer to Ryu, and she also teases him about Bell having that chance to peep at Ryu by accident, of course, as you remember in the events of Season 1, when Bell was stuck on floor 18 and Ryu was washing herself. And Seer likes to tease Bell about that, and Ryu is quick to defend Bell, of course. And then after that first encounter with Apollo Familia, the next thing they really skip is a good portion of the meeting between Aina and Bell. originally that conversation started with Aina making sure Bell was alright from the events of Floor 18, because he did take down that Monster Rex, that Black Goliath, the Irregular, but he did get pretty beat up during that fight. And Aina is asking if he's okay, and they also go over a lot of information concerning the middle levels. Like, Aina decides to teach Bell more about the middle levels because of what he's already encountered. And then after that, we do get into where the anime makes that conversation about Aina warning Bell about instigating fights between other familias, because it never goes... It's never a good thing. It's always a bad thing for the city, because if there is a fight between familias, a feud, the city usually gets in bad shape because of that. So Aina warns Bell about that, and that, of course, comes back later. And then we get introduced to Cassandra and Daphne, both members of Apollo Familia, and they give Bell the invitation to give to Hestia so they can go to that party that Apollo is holding. And then you see when Daphne starts walking away, she says, "My condolences." Like, she knows something's going to happen. Like, she does feel sorry for Bell. She pities Bell in this moment, and you'll see why very, very soon. And then we get to probably the better half of the episode, because there are events that happen in the episode that make us really happy. Probably the cover of this volume right here. We go into the dance, and finally the anime lets Naza speak. Naza, Miyak's soul Familia member. And she's level 2, of course. I did cover her in my previous video. Naza is a great member of the cast. I'm happy she's finally getting some speaking roles this time, because she didn't get to say a single word in Season 1, and her introduction was skipped, and her side story was also skipped. But you can also find more about that in a video I made called Familia Record, Naza. But anyway, back into the dance. One of the things that was a bit changed a little bit was there's no Hephaestus in the dance for some reason, like she was originally here in the light novels. They omitted her from here. They did change some stuff with Hermes. Hermes is still fun. I do like the changes they made with him, because originally he did compliment Mikito, Naza, and Bell and their outfits, but in the light novel he didn't really show off Osvi at all, but here in the anime he does, and it leads us into a very comedic scene where Osvi just elbows him across the floor. Like, I wasn't expecting that, so that is a nice welcome addition and very nice comedic addition as well. And that also kind of shows the power difference between level 3s and 4s. Hyacinthus being level 3 and beating up Bell and very fast, but you can see Osvi's even stronger at level 4, just elbowing her god across the entire room. And then shortly after they all meet, Freya enters the building with the big man himself, Otaro, the level 7, the strongest adventurer in Horario, and Freya goes along and teases Bell and Hestia, and Hestia quickly tries to get Bell away from Freya because she's afraid of Freya's natural charm, and usually Freya's charm just bewitches like any male, like even females as well. They're just enchanted by Freya. But I think Bell's doing his best. His main focus is eyes, and that's even mentioned in the light novels itself. Like, it does mention that he is taken by Freya, but when he sees eyes for the first time at this dance, the light novels explicitly mention that even though Freya is beautiful and all, eyes is the one that makes his heart sing. That eyes is the one that he feels for. And also during this dance, there's a conversation between Mikito and Bell where they basically thank each other for the events of Floor 18 in Volume 5 against the Black Goliath. Like, Bell thanks her for coming down there, and Mikito apologizes for that past parade that almost doomed Bell and his party into dying in the dungeon. And right then and there, they vow to help each other in times of need. And that's basically what the very beginning of this episode, the original entry, covered, is Mikito being a part, or being around Bell's group. And there's also a conversation between Mikito, Naza, and Bell that was skipped. Like, it's not too important, but it does show the relationship and dynamic between the characters. I just like any time Naza gets lines, because she's one of my favorite characters, and the way the anime treated her in Season 1 was very poor. But the conversation was basically Mikito asking Bell how he levels up so fast, and then Naza jokingly comments, "I dope him up with muscle building pills that I create." And I just thought that was a very funny moment, a very funny comment for Naza to say, because she is older than Bell, and she likes to tease him a lot. You don't really see that too much here in the episode, but hopefully we see more of Naza shine in the future ones. And then, of course, I can't really talk about this episode without mentioning Probably everyone's favorite part is concerning Hermes and everyone being a wingman for Bell and Eyes. And you can even see when Bell and Eyes part after Loki and Hestia like try to walk off on each other because they don't like fighting. You see Bell look back, and then he looks back forward and walks with Hestia, and then you see Eyes look back and then walk forward with Loki. So you see that even Eyes like wanted to talk to Bell or do something with him. And then later on we see Bell on the balcony, and he notices this conversation between Hyacinthus of Apollo Familia and someone else. And you would know who this person is if you read the light novels. This is part of this. You would know if they adapted that part they skipped in the very beginning of Volume 6. But I'm not going to say too much on that because they can still cover it later on. But basically something fishy is going on, as you can probably tell. Like, they muted the conversation and played some very spooky music, like something's going down because of this music. And then Hermes enters the scene, and unfortunately this is one of the parts, like all the other skips I was pretty much fine with, but this is the one skip piece of content that kind of hurt, because originally in this conversation, of course we know as of the end of season 1, Hermes talks about Zeus and how that is Bell's grandfather, and they talk a bit about that in the light novel. Like Hermes never says like who Zeus actually is or who Bell's adopted grandfather is, but he does mention Zeus and Hera Familia and how they used to be the top familias in Horario. And then after what is the 3 Great Quest, which is not mentioned in the anime but in the light novel, this is pretty much world building for stuff that's going to be happening very, very later on. It hasn't even really been touched up in the light novels as of 13 volumes, since I had not read volume 14, though it's out in Japan, of course, releasing on October 29th for us. But the 3 Great Quests are basically like these 3 quests for 3 different monsters that the world wishes to be defeated that are outside the dungeon. The first is the Behemoth, then the Leviathan, and then the Black Dragon. The first 2 were defeated by Hera and Zeus Familia, but the third, the Black Dragon, is still out there, and that's the failed quest that Zeus and Hera Familia unfortunately lost a lot of their Familia to. And because they were so weakened, Loki and Freya Familia basically pushed him out of Horario, and that's why Freya and Loki are at the top now, because Zeus and Hera's Familias basically fell apart after the Black Dragon basically decimated their Familia, and it's still out there somewhere, and that's set up for what's probably going to be like the end of DanMachi. And it's unfortunate that we don't really get to see that in the anime. Like, I wanted to see it adapted into the anime, even though it's just world building stuff. I wanted to see like what type of visuals they would use for that, and unfortunately we don't get that. But it is what it is. But we do get into the my favorite part of the episode, of course, when Hermes becomes that wingman for Bell. And Bell actually asks Eyes to dance with her after the help of Miak and Naza, pretty much demonstrating how to ask to dance. And then when they're having a tough time figuring out how to dance together, Take Mikizuchi and Mikoto basically give them some advice on how to dance together. And that gives us a very beautiful sequence. Like, I was worried about the animation of this dance when the season 2 was announced. Like, this is one of the moments I was looking forward to, and I think they did a good job with it. Like, I was worried it would just be like stills and slideshows, but we did get a very nice animated sequence between the two of them when they figured out how to mesh together and dance, and I really, really enjoyed that. And then, of course, and I'm very glad that they kept that comment by Freya as well. Like, everyone's watching the two of them. Loki and Hestia are pissed off, and Osvi is holding them because of Hermes' order. And Hermes is a good wingman because he knows he's going to get punished by Loki and Hestia for what he's pulling right here with Eyes and Bell. But that comment by Freya, like, she asked Otaro, like, would it be alright if I were just to release a horde of Minotaurs here? Because she is very taken by Bell as well, and she's also jealous, and there's no chill on that comment. Like, okay, Otaro, can we get some Minotaurs here right now? Because I'm really mad. But yes, I'm glad they kept that in, because that was a really funny moment in the light novel. And then, of course, the very ending of the episode is you see Apollo basically set Bell up for a war game, because Bell didn't beat Luan up that much. Like, it's almost like joke worthy of like all the bandages. Like, oh, he hurt me so much. I'm I'm almost dying. Like, no, man, it's a setup, and everyone knows it's a setup. But These are gods, they are immortal, and they, as you can see, they're just excited by the prospect of a war game because they want to be entertained. And they do quite a bit of work with Apollo's tongue right there at the very end. Like, I wasn't expecting the little tongue whirl there. But I think that does do a good job. It does its job at basically villainizing Apollo. But I think he does a good job at that himself already. But anyway, yeah, the episode ends at the War Game Declaration, and it basically covers about 80 pages worth of content from Volume 6. And I'm very excited to see the next episode because a lot of stuff is going to go down. But I do want to talk about the opening visuals. Because for Season 1 of DanMachi and then Sword Art Toria, I wasn't really a fan of the opening visuals that much. Sword Art Toria especially, because they kind of go about it the lazy way, of where they kind of go through like that character introduction phase in the OP 2 different times, and there's not really much in the ways of actual exciting animation. But here, I need to know who directed the opening, because I was tearing up watching the opening, because I never believed it would look this good, but we get like these amazing shots with like 3D, like a good use of 3D perspective, and these panning shots, and I'm just mind blown. Like I wasn't expecting the opening to look that good. That's probably like, besides like Bell and I's dancing together, that's my favorite part of watching this week. Just seeing the opening visuals, because everyone looks really good, especially that shot with like them in the rain, like Lily in the rain, Mikoto in the rain, Ryu in the rain, my favorite character. But the opening is just amazing. I want to know who directed the opening, because give that man a raise, keep him on the team. Oh my lord. Like, I want to know how you guys feel about the opening animation, because I think it's just visually stunning, and it makes me very, very excited for the rest of the anime, the rest of the second season, because there are a lot of cool scenes in here that a lot of you probably won't understand if you haven't read the light novels, but we are in for quite a ride. And the last thing I want to mention about this episode 1 is, if you guys haven't played the DanMachi mobile game, DanMachi Moria Freeze danmemo, I covered that on my channel a lot. Right now, there's a free Azure Goddess Hestia assist character, basically a free unit of Hestia in that dress. But the more important thing I want to mention is that there's these little mini side stories happening in the game that you can just watch through. You don't even really have to level anything up or be high leveled in the game to see these. But there are these little sub-stories that are going to play with the release of each episode, and the one sub-story that released today actually covers like the last few pages of Volume 5, and of course Season 1 or Season 2 do not cover that, and you are basically intended to watch that sub-story before watching the first episode, though I encourage you guys, if you do want to see this, go ahead and download the game, and then go into that sub-story, because it does contain some fun stuff before getting into episode 1. Though the one thing I am worried about is them using these sub-stories as like a crutch for stuff they don't adapt into the anime. Like, I want them to adapt as much stuff from the light novels into the anime. I did mention a lot of skip content they did here. There's only one thing that, or basically two things that bothered me, which is the very beginning scene being skipped between Lily and Soma Familia, and then the mention of the 3 great quests between Hermes and Bell. But those are pretty much the two scenes I was kind of sad about not being adapted. But overall, I really enjoyed the episode, the opening especially. But I really want to know your guys' opinions on this episode. If you're a light novel reader, were you satisfied with how it was adapted? If you're an anime only, are you looking forward to the next episode? There's so many exciting things coming up in Season 2. I'm very excited. Just that I rewatched the opening sequence, or the opening, numerous times. I'm still getting water in my eyes just watching, because it just makes me super excited. Like, just the opening alone made me very excited for the rest of this anime, because I was worried about JC staff handling it when they had all these other properties going on right now with the anime. Do You Love Your Mom, or 2-hit target attacks, or it's something like that, and then the Accelerator anime, of course, and they all premiere on the same day as DanMachi Season 2, but it looks like DanMachi Season 2 is being treated pretty well right now, and I'm just excited to see more. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode review. I hope you enjoyed the content. I hope you enjoyed some insight on some of the stuff that was skipped over from the light novel. I'll be continuing to do this every week for the rest of Season 2. But anyway, guys, Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video and would like to see more, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you want to stay updated, follow me on Twitter and join my Discord. And as always, continue enjoying your time venturing in Mario and the dungeon. This is Lorne, your guild advisor, signing out.